My name is Abina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, over me hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment. Business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prime Time Sunday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. The 2023 elections are over, and Joseph Newman Boakai of the Unity Party is the presumed or the projected winner. Even if President Weah has the rest of the votes, Joseph Newman Boakai still wins. So, with that said, with the elections that we've just had, Joseph Boakai being the winner, what does the election result really say about Liberia? What does it say about the Liberian voter? What does the election result say about the NEC? And where does the country stand at the moment? Is it divided along ideological or other lines? What is responsible for President Weah losing? What is responsible for the Boakai victory? What do we expect during the transitional period? What kind of government do we expect from Mr. Boakai in the next 100 days that will set the tune for the next 6 years? These are the questions we're going to be grappling with tonight. That's why I have invited some of the best minds among us. Number one, I want to introduce and welcome Elijah, Mr. Elijah, or Father Elijah B. Washington. He's an educator and also a priest. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's amazing. It's a wonderful experience again to be on your show, to share the platform with my brother and our brother Dajjal. And today is a time to share our thoughts with our people and see how we can move our country forward. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mr. Dave Jah. He's the executive director of the Live Liberia Super PAC that supported Councillor Tiawonse Gonglo in the elections that just ended. Mr. Jah, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm delighted to be here. I hope you just spoiled my mood that I am one of the losing parties supporters. So, but that's okay. That's okay.
Presidency, all of us are winners.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here with some of my fellow Liberians to discuss, what our thoughts are. So thank you again, and thanks, gentlemen, to share this platform with me.
Thank you. Let me also welcome our governor's advisor, Mr. Admer K. Salif. He's just written another one about the transitional period. So this guy is into it. He was part of the Weah transition team, taking notes from the current government at that time to work on the transition. And he's writing, he's talking. So we've invited him to get some thoughts from him. Mr. Salif, welcome.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm looking forward to the discussion and to reflecting on the whole electoral period and looking forward to transition and governance.
Thank you. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. We are waiting Councillor Kabina Jana. He's going to be joining us from Liberia. Also, Professor Larry Kennedy is on his way. So we can discuss these things. Tonight is a kind of show I want our panelists and also our viewers to weigh in as we discuss these questions. It's almost like a survey kind of thing. I want to get people ideas, and we want to set the stage for the kind of conversation that we should be having as we transition from the Weah 6 years to the Boakai 6 years. So let me start with my first question here with the result, and I want us to maybe concentrate more on the presidential result. What does that result tell us? And I want to specifically look at the Liberian vote. Let's start with the Liberian voter. First, generally, what are we learning from the results? What conclusion can we draw? And we will start with that general sense and also look at the Liberian voter. What does the result say? Let me start with Mr. Washington.
Then it's first before I respond to that question. I'd like to congratulate Liberian people. I think they've done excellent work. I think our process has been peaceful, and we need to congratulate Liberian people. I also like to salute our president for his undiluted patriotic saying, for his leadership, for his statesmanship, for his staring example, especially in an environment in the South region where people think that political transition is not possible. I think he has broken that ceiling and he has allowed this process to go this far. So I'd like to salute him. But to your question, I think that there are various factors that we can look at when we're talking about the Liberian voters. For me, I think there is, when I compare it from the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time from 2005 to where we are, I see there is a cultural transformation, there is a reflection, there is an evolution of people's thought on certain things in our country. And that before this election, there were times in our country where people would vote based on political party. Just Weah would just lift your hands, or CDC people would just vote based on their party emblem. But now people are more reflective. They're reflecting about the issues. They want clean water, they want roads. They think that these things are very important for them. So I think our Liberian voters today are voting on results. They want to see what you can provide for them. And based on what you can provide for them, they will give you a second chance. But if you see that you're not providing the things that I expect from you, I think that people will not give you a second chance. And I think that's what I see from this election.
Thank you. Dave, what does the result tell us?
Also, thank you, Dennis, for inviting me. I also want to take up the time to congratulate the Liberian people that they, despite their circumstances, they continue to go through. They were patient enough and made their concern through the ballot box. So that was great on their part. We thank the president as well that he generously accepted that the Liberian people did not give him a second term, and he accepted that this is a nation where we have had a lot of crises with elections. We are recorded in the Guinness Book of Records with one of the most fraudulent elections in human history. So we also can turn the page around. I think what this says about the Liberian people is that they are patient enough, and the Liberian people are, and that patience is reflected in their silence. When Judge Weah took over, there were a few demonstrations, and then after that, the Liberian people kept quiet, and and they resolved that they were going to respond through the ballot box. And so that demonstrates their patience, their tolerance, and their desire never to use violence to alter the course of action. So that speak well of them. And I know that maybe we will come to the other question about ideology, but that tells us that the Liberian people are patient and they are fed up. And when they are fed up, they will make a decision about their lives.
Thank you. Ahmed?
Oh, thank you, Dennis. The results says so many things. It says that the Liberian voters are very interesting voters. First, they show that the country is polarized. I mean, I'm not a doomsayer. I'm not here to be a doomsayer. Uh, but if you look at, the percentages of regional voting trends and numbers we got based on if you look at the southeastern vote, for instance, you look at what happened in Nimba. It's so the voters in Nimba were for President-elect Boakai. They were for the candidate Boakai. The voters, by and large, in the southeast, voted along tribal lines, along party lines. Similar voters in Lofa County, in the second round, at least, voted. I would say on regional line, or in some instances tribal line. Voters in Montserrado, however, are mixed. They can be ideological voters, but they're also very party line based voters. You saw this election was very competitive, given the numbers we saw, even the variance, the difference between the two candidates that emerged top and went in the runoff. It shows to us that the President Boakai will have a lot of work to do. This incoming administration will have a lot of work to do. If they assemble, as we'll discuss later, a competent and responsible government, they will have to, the president will have to unite the country. I mean, not in the sense that there's active conflict. You don't have to have an active armed conflict to have conflict in the country, or that you have to have the need to unite the country, to be conciliatory and reconcile. But I also want to agree that the voters are issues voters. They, saw what happened under President Weah. A lot of voters were unhappy, largely with the economy. With the economy and the behavior of the government and behavior of government officials, you share display of arrogance in some places, human rights issues in terms of we can go into some of the substance of that question. But to me, when I say Liberian voters are interesting voters at the outset, that's what I meant by that. They can be voters who can vote along tribal lines, can vote along party lines. They'll vote along on a regional basis, whether a candidate is a regional candidate and how they see that candidate. But they also can be very issues-based and purely ideological, political party-based voters. If you come towards the metropolis, towards urban areas, you tend to see different demographics and voter behaviors.
So, Salih, so how does the Liberian voter compare to other voters in the sub-region?
In Sierra Leone, it's also very similar. It's very tribal voter trend. So if you look at, for example, the SLPP, the Sierra Leone People's Party, the APC, All People's Congress, is purely split between the Mende Eastern Bloc, the eastern region of the country, Kenema border, that region. If you look at the APC, you go to Boakai, Makeni, northwest Sierra Leone towards the capital, Freetown, that is also divided along various tribal lines, the Timini, the Mendes, by and large, the Fulani and Mandingo voters. So historically, those are the two dominant parties in Sierra Leone, for example. In Ghana, similarly, Ghanaian voters, in my estimation, can be ideological voters, but they're also regional voters. I mean, they look at the NDC, one of the major political parties that has been described as largely an urban and central voter region-based voters party that attracts voters from those regions. You go to Nigeria. Nigeria is a complicated case, in a sense, because I've read some pieces on the Nigerian political system and how people vote and voter behaviors. Yes, they can be tribal because they're also a very complicated tribal society, but they're by and large, particularly in the urban areas, the big cities, they're by and large issues voters. They want the economy, they want the country to change, and the politicians will start being corrupt and just being extravagant. So when they're bent on removing a candidate from office, that's what they do. And then they come back and say the vote was stolen from them. It was not the will of the people. So the Liberian voters in certain respects are not very far away from other voters in the region, but because maybe we are a smaller country, a smaller population, ours can be intense and easily detectable.
Thank you. Washington, on this issue of tribal or regional, sometimes we say tribal, they're voting on tribal lines, but if you look in Lofa, there are like 6 ethnic groups. Yeah. So it cannot be tribal, or if we want to group them.
Yeah, not necessarily tribal, but yeah, it has some tribal sentiments, attached to it, which are like I alluded to. So yeah, it has its tribal sentiment, but also it's regional. So yeah, all of us who belong to this region, we see ourselves as brothers and sisters, okay? Even though we might belong to different tribes, but we're more closer to people who belong to another region. So, for example, the people in the Southeast, the Basa.
So could that be interest or bloodlines? Could it be, okay, since we are in the Southeast, and for instance, our issue is role. Correct. So we want somebody who will build our role.
Absolutely.
Since we are in Lofa and we have the issue of role and also want to be the breadbasket, we want to see someone who's going to pay attention to agriculture. Or we just, because sometimes I think that we are quick to jump to tribal or ethnic or even regional, right? We don't look at the interest.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, we that's our makeup. We belong to different ethnic groups. But hey, if it's going to be used to divide us, that's a different thing. But if it's just that to unite us because we belong to the same region, belong to the same tribe, I don't see anything wrong with that. And then we look out there and say, hey, yeah, even though he doesn't belong to our ethnic group, he's not from our region, is he actually going to pay attention to us when he gets elected? Because take, for example, the people in the southeastern part of the country, they might think that, oh, we are from the southeast, our issues are wrong. If we elect somebody who is not from the southeast, is he going to first look at us to fix our roles? Or is he going to look at his place to fix whatever they're asking for? So these are different reasons why people make these decisions. And like Ahmed said, I lived in Ghana for many years, and I know, hey, they also have these same issues. They vote for the NDC. People, I used to live in the north of Ghana, and that's where I went to university there. They many vote for NDC. They wouldn't vote for NPP. So NPP people would be more the Ashantis, the people in the southern part of the country. So there will be layers. There'll be layers of reason why people will vote. But hey, the first thing they want to do, is he close to us? Is he going to provide what we want? These are the questions they will ask themselves, and it can be ethnic, it can be regional, and it can be for different reasons.
And Dave, unless you want to add, but I want to ask you on the division. We talk about the division. The vote is like 50-50, right? 50-49, very, very close. And so what does it say, the way people voted, and how does it talk about division along ideological lines or whatever way we think that they voted? Where does the country stand now as a result of the way people voted?
Even before that, it's easier for us to, because we are considered a tribal people. Those are the kind of cleavages that people are aware of, or that other cultures want to promote about Africa or about Liberia, because we belong to various tribal groups. So what they would say is oh, they are voting on tribal lines, and that's can be partly correct as well. But the I think one of the thing that other cultures try to establish about us is that they try to align us with this kind of culture that doesn't evaluate, does not think about the broader picture. And so they just lump that and say, oh, people are voting on tribal lines. But when it comes to those other cultures, they will talk about voting on interest. Okay. In the United States of America, you find out that Democrats are concentrated in certain parts of the United States, and because they don't see themselves as like tribal groups or whatever, so it is easier to say, "Oh, this is a blue state, this is a red state," and all of that. But if you come to look at it, also they are concentrated in certain parts of the country, and that could also play into ours. But because we are such kind of a tribal society, or so it is easy for us to even buy into that notion that we are voting on tribal lines. Yes, but for us, so we sometimes need to get out of the mindset is that what is the underlying reason for which someone may even vote on tribal line? Because they think that proximity is most important. Their interest will be served by someone who is closer to them. And that theory works in many cultures or in all cultures. Okay. So if we Liberians even begin to divorce ourselves of that mindset that once it is trouble, it is primitive, it is not advanced, we will do well for ourselves. But I don't think it's a bad thing per se for people to vote on their interest. So maybe we can begin to coin it like we are voting for our self-interest, and that's what human beings are all about. And what does that say about the election, the voting, of the closeness? I think what has happened in Liberia, or what is happening in Liberia, there is a general consensus, I believe, that the country is not in the right place where the Liberian people want it to be. That is a general consensus. Even people who voted for George Weah knew that Liberia is not doing well. The people are not doing well. Their living conditions have not improved. But where the issue continues to lie is when it comes to who to blame. I think that's where many Liberians begin to make that argument. Seditions or CDC people will tell you, look, we know the country is not doing well. For the past 170 plus years, we have not done well. Judge Weah alone is not going to be able to correct the mistakes of the over 100 years. So they acknowledge that. So the category of voters, I would say the empathetic voters and the apathy voters, I would look at people who are empathizing and say, yes, Judge Weah is not the problem. It's the past, the leaders that have been in the past. We know he's struggling. Why? Because of the kind of foundation that has been left behind. But there are others who saying, look, the buck start with you. The buck stop with you. Whether you are doing well or not, the onus is on you to do it to improve our lives. And if you can do it, we rather try another person. And so this is why I think the votes are very close. The Liberian people know the country is on the wrong track, but who is responsible? So some say
And Dave,
the current
please
government.
end,
Yeah.
please end with this one. If we are divided as a people based on the election result, and if yes, along which lines?
Uh, of course, I mean, I don't think I don't think we are divided on tribal lines that much. It's not deeply tribal. I think we are divided on economic lines. People who want their lives to improve, there are many people who want their lives to improve. There are many people who are suffering in the country, but who do they want to blame? Is it themselves? Is it government? Is it previous governments? And this is where the divisions really are largely. And others are saying, oh, this is a chronic problem that is never going to change. Others are saying, look, the change will lie in leadership. Um, so I don't think Liberians are has that vastly divided to the point that the divisions are irreparable. I think the moment the Liberian people, their economic conditions, their social conditions improve, you will see cohesiveness. You will see real, coming together. So I'm not too worried about the Liberian people themselves, about their divisions. My concern is about leadership that can truly represent them and bring them together. That is where my problem is.
And Mr. Johnson,
Dennis,
just on Dave's.
I wanted to interject.
yeah,
Then you
I wanted to interject. I want to push back a little bit on this idea that when we talk about tribal or ethnic voting on tribal or ethnic lines, that is negative, or that is somewhat primitive, or that is alluding to something else, something like, well, they're not rational, they don't reflect, they don't think critically about why they're voting and whom they want to vote for. That is not. America is a tribal society too. Blue state, red state. You talk about left, right wing, and left wing. These are all tribal. It just means that it's a segmentation of how society, the sociology of society. While ours happens to be the languages that we speak in our respective regions and in our respective sort of sociology, and people equate that to something that may not be what they see as desirable in their own culture. Culture is interpretative, right? And so, but when you talk about Dave interest, people voting along interest, that is interest. If Dennis Jar came from my region, from my tribal background, my ethnicity, and Dennis is a competent, able candidate, Dennis is on the ballot, there's some appeal there. If Dennis is a good candidate and speaks well about his vision and things like that, people, we've seen it we've seen candidates, what the Prince Johnson factor, for example, when you take a look at that. Why do people so behold Prince Johnson so highly in Nimba County? Because they see him as a certain figure who's there for them, who's a liberator, who speaks for them, who looks out for them, right? And then so he becomes the kingmaker. In Lofa County, the major tribal and ethnic communities there, it may not necessarily be that this one candidate belongs to all those ethnicities, but the appeal, the regional appeal, that's why I said tribal and regional, okay? And so I'm just making the argument that the issues and the interest can blend into that descriptor, that people are voting on that kind of interest. And I did say that in the urban areas and even in the rural areas, based on what we've been seeing, people, social media and mass media, mass communication, now people can be anywhere in Lofa, anywhere in Grand Jude, they're going live, we're hearing their issues, their concerns. I agree totally with our economic emancipation desire, that desire for progress, that desire for prosperity, for success. Because in prosperity and success, it's easier for people then to forget their immediate needs and think about larger issues and other matters that bring about cohesiveness and so on. So it's a bit complicated than to try to simplify and just say other cultures look at us as tribal and therefore we may be primitive, and we're implying that. I personally wouldn't think that wasn't the point of my pointing out what I observed during the electoral cycle.
Right. So, but are we so quick?
I can expand.
Hold on. Are we so quick to look, because there are always layers, right? Even the way we vote here. So there will be tribal, there will be this, that.
Yeah,
Let's say 10 different reasons. But in
Correct.
Liberia, are we so quick to point at the tribal? Like for instance, when George Weah had the appeal, if you notice, there were mainly people that were young people and people along sport lines. So footballers, even sport writers, and all these people, they were George Weah,
yes.
right? But we are very quick to, are we quick to point to the tribal and ignore other
No,
connections?
Dennis,
Let me.
the George Weah case is populism. Populism based on sports, based on what he represented Liberia to be during our most difficult period. So he was a popular, he's still popular. He was a popular individual and personality, and therefore translated into politics and brought in that broad appeal, that even urban appeal that I talked about. But by and large, our country is a rural country. And being a rural country, anywhere in the world, you look at sociology and societal formations, the factors, when they say all politics is local, that's what it means. The issues that are important to the people locally, their cultural implications, the sociological implications, of course, the economic and other factors at play here.
Thank you. Washington.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand on this issue about the way our people vote. I think our past political experience has contributed to the way people vote in our country, because people vote. We have a cake, and people will hope that whoever becomes our leader will take care of the larger body. But in the past, what has happened to our country, and when our leaders come to power, the first thing they want to do is to take care of their countrymen, people, the place they come from. So you look at the situation of Maryland. Todd McConnell from Maryland, so he makes the place better. You look at Samuel Doe, he comes from Stuzon, so he makes Grand Judah better. So at the back of the people's mind, that whoever comes to power will take care of us. So therefore, let's vote for our own, so that when he comes to power, he will take care of us. Now, even recently, I listened to the people from the Unity Party. What did they say? They said, whoa, why are the people from the Southeast, why are they voting for George Weah when he did nothing for them? I hate to say, when you become the leader for the country, you are supposed to do only for your people. So I think we need to develop a political agenda where they're, hey, when you become a leader, you become a leader for everyone. And whenever we set a budget, it should be a budget that takes care of the entire country. So when we have a budget that takes care of the entire country, no one is going to be thinking that, oh, okay, I know we have a school here and the government is going to support our school. We have a hospital, the government is going to support our hospital. So we don't need to vote for somebody because he's from us. Because if we don't vote for somebody because he's for us, we know that's past, we're still going to get our part of the budget and it's going to support us. But the fact that people come with this mentality that, hey, when he comes to power, he's going to take care of us because he's one of our sons. And based on that, people vote based on what they think they will get when whoever comes to power comes to power. So I think that's where we need to change. That's what our country needs to change. That, hey, we vote our leaders, but we take care of the entire country.
Right. So you raise a very important point. Like, it's like people feel that they've been cheated so long,
Yes,
so that things are not equitably distributed. So the only way I will get something is if I have a representative there.
Place, because if I don't vote for the one who comes to my place, the one who comes for someone else, how do I know that he's going to take care of us? He's not going to take care of us because in the past,
because there's no history of the equitable distribution of wealth.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about NEC. Let me start with Elijah. NEC. There was a lot of criticism for NEC from the beginning. At the end of the election now, are we going to recant some of those statements we said to NEC, or what are we saying about NEC now? What do you think the election results show about NEC?
Mr. John, if you listen to one of the show I was on last week, I was one of those who was on this station, on this platform, that said that NEC was credible and let us allow NEC to do its work. I had people on this platform who keep saying to me, oh, they were slow, they were not announcing the results, they weren't supposed to do, Unity Party has beaten them. I said to them, hey, NEC has a statutory duty to perform. Let them give them the chance, let them do their work. I even advocated on this platform that, hey, If for one reason you saw NEC doing something that you didn't like, jot it down and go to them and lay a complaint, but let them do the work. Today, it has proven that NEC is credible because they are proving to us that they were doing their work, they knew what they were doing, and they were doing something that, hey, that tomorrow we're going to trust in them. So for me, I've always said that NEC has been credible, and it has been proven that they are credible and they have done the work. They might have some issues. Everywhere has issues, and they might have these issues so based on probably some based on certain things, but I think by and large they have been credible. They have been credible so far.
Ahmed, I feel vindicated, and I listened to some of the observers, even along in West Africa. They are like Liberian election is the gold standard.
Absolutely,
NEC is just the best.
Mm.
You agree?
So NEC got $50 million for the elections. And the chair of the commission said that they got everything, including in-kind contributions from donors, and even I understand some other budgetary support and technical support. By and large, Liberians ran the election. In the past, it used to be really foreign and donor heavy, and we transitioned a little bit. Look, NEC is what NEC is. NEC is what we have, and what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Washington, is to say, okay, look, that's our own, that's what we have, and let's not be beating on them too much. At the same time, we have to raise the bar. We have to challenge ourselves and shoot for the North Star and say, look, we need the absolute best of the best, okay? Elections are pivotal in democracy. Elections are what mark and the democratic transitions and political transitions and ensures peace and even economic progress. So the National Elections Commission, there are those who have observed their work, who have worked with them closely. I have not worked in the Election Commission to necessarily really understand the back issue, but I've worked with a donor government where we've supported NEC, where I've been involved in planning and funding and collaboration with the government of Liberia as it concerns elections and electoral security. The NEC could be better. There are the technical people who have been trained, who are very well trained and have been in that election commission for a long time, very experienced people who receive training at home, receive training overseas. Those people know what they're doing. Where the problem lies is at the Board of Commissioners level and that political level, that political infusion, management, efficiency, and really running the show. Because the way our system is, the Board of Commissioners are not the technicians. They're the ones who are the face of this thing. They're the one representing. They're the one making a decision, calling the shots. You have an executive director of NEC. Did you ever hear the executive director holding a press conference discussing administrative, technical, operational matters, how NEC happened, how the elections will happen, and things like that? You don't even know who that executive director is. And that is because our system is a top-down system, just a all-powerful presidency, all-powerful board of commissioner kind of thing. NEC has structure. You have 19 magisterial districts around the country, 19 electoral magistrates. They're the one who collect and collect all these ballots and bring in, and then before they transmit. The way that board of commissioner level is done, is managed, how they conduct themselves, that's where people have problems with, right? When there's corruption, when there's attempt to compromise the votes and people's votes, that's where the problem is that board of commissioner level, because whatever they impose upon the technicians, that's what the technicians will do. You don't see them, you don't hear the technicians. So when you hear people criticizing the election commission, there's some of those issues. And then there are other types of problems that you expect any electoral management body and the challenges to face to deal with that NEC has dealt with and is experiencing. So we're not saying in this case it's 100% their fault and it is a totally terrible institution.
Mr. Salido, a lot of suspicion that the NEC was not going to do a good job. That in fact, Deviator Brown was indicted by the LACC, right, and all these issues that were surrounding her. So there were doubts. At the end of the election, is she vindicated?
Look, Dennis, it depends on who you talk to. People
I'm talking
say,
to you.
well, okay. Yeah. If you ask me, look, round one of the election, honestly, I was the conviction that Mr. Boakai won that election. The turnout was unprecedented. That was a referendum on President Weah and on President Weah's administration. The people have voted our president out. But it turned out the Unity Party, they didn't have the sort of technical setup that we had been calling for the whole time, even here on FOL and other places, saying, look, if you want to mind the people's votes and ensure that the vote that was cast is absolutely what NEC is reporting, that is reflecting, you have to have a counter system in place where you can signal to them and put them on notice that, look, we got all the numbers, we know what we're doing, here is the trend, we want to, like American did. Why American is nothing earth-shattering, right? I mean, this, what him and his team did, I've been praising him the whole time because the other people before him, they didn't really put that kind of operational technical systematization. They didn't optimize any system to track every single vote. Yeah, Darrell's Dillon putting up a blue plastic thing that went viral and people, that was not a war room or situation. That was not technical sort of process that made sure that the election commission knew that they couldn't cheat. If they were pressured or influenced in some way, they couldn't cheat. But this time around, that was in place. And so, yes, NEC came out flying with a flying color. They had to do what they had to do because we knew the numbers.
Well,
okay.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Washington, you will have your turn. You spoke. I told Dennis, it depends on who you talk to. He said he's talking to me. I'm telling you how I look. And I preface this by saying I am not inside. I don't have the hardcore evidence. I'm talking to people who know this stuff, people who are on the ground, some people working at NEC, some people working in civil society. These are people who are observing these things. And so, look, we don't have to keep beating our institutions down, but we truly have certain problems as a society we have to address and ensure that there's always respect for process, respect for rule of law, and so on. So yes, they deliver.
Hold on, Elijah.
Dennis, circumstantially, they delivered. Yes, they had to deliver, and because all eyes were on them, and in that respect, they did their work. Kudos to them.
Thank you, Dave. What does the result say about NEC?
Well, you see, I think there still should be, on the surface, we'll say, yeah. Why we saying this is because the opposition is declared provisionally to have won the election. But why, if the CDC has been declared or held, who have broken loose, that they cheated? Okay, that's my assumption. That so on the surface we'll say, well, since our conception is that when government loses or incumbent loses, it means everything was free and fair. But that is not the full picture. I don't think that is, because results can also be skewed in favor of opposition. That is possible. In Africa, also, sometimes we think that opposition don't cheat. Of course, opposition cheats. They are also human beings. They are open to flaws. But on the surface, we'll say, yes, since this outcome is this way, we'll say. I read somewhere where, I don't know if that is true, where even the CDC folks were complaining that NEC was against them. All of the odds were tilted against them. So what needs to happen? That's why I'm saying on the surface, you say, okay, NET has done well. They reported some of the results, even when it started, and they reported like less than 5%, and then people started to have some apprehensions about the process. And what they speak to is also our lack of confidence and trust in the institutions that we have. because for a long period of time, these institutions, whether deliberately or maybe through incompetence, have failed the country, or we also fail to evaluate them independently or objectively. So we judge them as being corrupt. Perhaps that is also playing into our mindset. So for now, I will say yes, it's good. And the reaction of the president also testified that NEC did something positive, so that we can take that with a grain of salt. But what needs to happen is we still need to do a vigorous evaluation and assessment of the work of NEC, even from the, and also another factor that plays into it is how our electoral commission is set up. I've been a critic of them, that the ruling party or the president, who happens to be a member of a certain contesting political party, appoints the officials. That itself, and then the government, and then it depends on government to sponsor that institution, to finance it. So it brings into play some doubts. And I hope these are things that we will improve in the long run. Let's do some analysis as to what were the challenges, what are some of the bottlenecks that can impede the work or the independence of the entity. If
Thank
hopefully, another thing is that if those people can remain in place so that we can continue to improve on them, and that will be a very good thing. But again, for now, we can say, okay, neck, no too much of commotions emanated from the election results. So that's, for now, is good on the face. And we hope that we will continue to do better and improve. So I thank them for now, David Eder Brown and the rest of our colleagues that work on the elections.
Mr. Jack, can I say something before we go to the next?
Yeah, no, let me welcome Justice Jane. That's Councillor Kabina Mohammed Jane. He's joining us on the phone. Councillor Jane, welcome.
Oh,
Thank you very much, and good evening to all.
Thank you. I want us to move on to our next question, which is what is responsible for the UP victory? And I'm talking presidential here. Legislative is a whole lot of layers, so I don't want to touch on that. But what is responsible for the UP victory, and what's responsible for the CDC loss in the presidential election? And with that, let me use that question to welcome Councillor Janet. So, Councillor Janet, what is responsible, in your view, for the city, for Weah to lose?
Generally, I would say that the state of affairs in the country propelled people to vote in a manner in which they did. And I think that is primarily responsible for the defeat that CDC suffered this time.
And on the flip side, what's for UP? What's responsible for the UP victory or Boakai winning the presidency?
I think the same thing, because it's twofold now. On the other, at the other side, you will see people wanting change, and whatever UP represented at the time will provide at least a glimmer of hope for change. So it was all about trying to just change the status quo in the country.
So before I go to our next panelist, was it actually a vote for Joseph Newman Boakai, or it was just a protest against the CDC? Because somebody told me, say, even if you are putting a piece of anyone in a chair, that person will have still defeated Weah, because this was a protest against Weah and not necessarily a vote for Joseph Newman Boakai. What do you say to that?
Well, the the fact of the matter is that once the people saw something that provided a little chance of change, it's very likely that the people will have voted for that. And at the time, the choice available was Joe Boakai. In addition to the fact that this is a man who is very experienced, one who has served in government for years, and a lot of people know him, I guess, in a way that convinces them that this man at least will provide an opportunity for dialogue and therefore for change.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, what is responsible for the Boakai victory and the Weah loss, in your view?
Well, like the justice is saying, look, there are many factors. One is the economic condition, the pervasive poverty and macroeconomic failures in the country. The people, the conditions are not good. You go to hospitals, the outcomes are not good. You go to education, the outcomes are questionable. Our professionals are trained and they deserve better, but the resources are not there. The places are not equipped. The social contract, people don't pay attention to it. They cherry pick what kind of quick impact project they think will mesmerize the people and therefore maintain them in office. Those are the kinds of things they were doing. They weren't paying attention to systematic studies of problems and therefore designing systematic solutions, sustainable solutions to those problems for the country. Even if you focus on roads, for instance, that was one of the major areas, say roads. Look, you can't ignore basic economic stabilization for the people and focus on a major capital investment area of development and think that will keep you in office. The people will be happy because the roads, you're building. Of course, roads are economic drivers, right? And roads and power and energy. Those are the major things. If you have electricity, you have roads connectivity of the country, you attract investors, and then rule of law ensure that people can bring their money to the country, that there'll be respect and sanctity of contract, that somebody can go to court and actually get fair judgment of the matter they took to court. And so all of those factors, under a particular president, people observe those things. The citizens are not stupid. Our people are very conscientized people. In this age of instant communication, Facebook Live, social media, where somebody is in the remotest part of the country, they're going live, they're connected, we know what's happening. They know what's happening in other countries, in other parts of the world. And so people's eyes are open. And the administration we have in office now, it seems to me that most of the leaders behave very arrogantly toward their people, with total disdain and disregard for their welfare and for the issues that they were clamoring for. And so that led to Mr. Weah's defeat. Although it was a competitive election, I told people he had no business losing this election, really, as someone who is a populist, who came to politics based on populism. And Mr. Boakai, on the other hand, as you asked the justice, all those factors in him, very experienced statesman. He's been around, and he was with President Salih for 12 years. He has international connections, extensively traveled. People know him, and he knows what he's doing. So if the perception is that, at least the hope is that he will be able to assemble an inclusive, diverse, competent group of people who will be marginally better than what we had under President Weah. In my view, there are other factors, but taken together, those were the main reasons for victory and defeat.
Oh, Mr. Salif, if you say that it would appear that the margin was that wide, this is very slim margin, right?
That's
so
why
it means that
competitive election. Yes,
right. So being very slim, really, probably you could be right that because of all these reasons they don't want Weah. But with the slim margin, doesn't it appear that when they look on the other side, they see more of the same? And so really it was at the end that the little bit in between was some mini money more?
Dennis, you've been our host the whole over the last 2-3 years. We've been analyzing these issues. I've always said elections are won in the middle. Those on the fence, the undecided, that narrow, because each of these candidates has their base. You got a base, so they call them the Sins. The Sins will always vote for President Weah no matter what else other people say. And the Boakai Sins will vote for him no matter what they said. The sinners are those who you can give them $1 million, they will never vote for Weah. And those issues, people independent in the middle looking. Look, because Mr. Boakai came close, at least given the based on the official result NEC gave us in the first round, considering the number of candidates that were in the race, Mr. Boakai was that close marginally to President Weah. You knew that in the end, with only 2 of them in the race, who was going to be on top. So the middle, tiny middle, independent, those on the fence lean towards Mr. Boakai, and this is the result we're seeing. So I'm not suggesting at all that the variance was so huge. I said this was a competitive race, but it was President Weah's election to lose. He had no business losing this election despite the margin.
Thank you. Dave, why do you think Weah lost and Boakai won?
Okay. Yeah, I agree with what the previous speaker said. Let me maybe put it a little bit also differently to add another dimension to it. I think 3 people were responsible for Boakai's victory. And the 3 individuals are Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, George Mane Weah, and Boakai himself. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, historically, unprecedentedly, through someone who she has picked as her running mate, as vice president under the bus. She dashed him at a time when he needed her most. That is a bit unprecedented, because you pick a vice president so that saying that this person is the closest to the presidency. If anything could happen to me. And publicly, she denounced that man, threw him under the bus, and picked an opposition person. The economic aspect that accumulated into that is another thing. So when the Liberian people saw that, they had sympathy for Boakai. The Weah factor. George Weah is a popular person who was believed to have a lot of money, resources, did not take the presidency seriously. And mind you, Liberians love their president. If you notice over the years, they love their president to look good. They want their president to be the best, to be outstanding. And this is why you will see the Tolbert total involvement is still lingering around. People enjoy that. They love to see President Tolbert and all that. Came even Charles Taylor, came even Samuel Doe. They love that. But that's not all. Liberians also enjoy a president that communicates, that talks to them. They see it as a form of respect because they want to emulate that person. George Weah fulfilled one of those. He fails in the other one. And the people felt that he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready for the presidency, the kind of president that the Liberian people knew. Then Boakai, despite the treatment that was meted out against him by his trusted friend, Boakai will go as far back as their CWA days, where he got encounter with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So their relationship dated far back. And he was ill-treated. But all through how his presentations, his speeches, even his approaches to things, there was no point in time that Joseph Boakai, president-elect, has expressed indignation, has expressed disdain for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Every occasion, every opportunity he had, he will visit Ellen. On her birthdays, he will go there and sit with her. The Liberian people saw that and saw him as a patient person, a kind person, a person who doesn't pay evil with evil, or I mean, distrust or mistrust with mistrust, or
So, so,
whatever it
so,
is.
so,
So,
so Dave,
so Liberian people saw that, and saw a
you name
patient
a couple.
person.
You name a couple of persons. You didn't mention Prince Johnson because, from what we know now, Prince Johnson is the godfather of Nimba, and we could see that the election was won in Nimba. So it appears to me whoever Prince Johnson supported in this election will have won. With everything that Ahmed said, that the justice said, and that you've said, Prince Johnson could well as well be the determining factor here.
No, but to some extent, but that's you attribute that to Joseph Boakai's genius. So he was the one who lured Prince Johnson to himself. He found accommodation for him. Judge Weah could not do it. Judge Weah felt that he had the presidency, and therefore he did not need the allies that have helped him in the past. And Joseph Boakai was able to weave that path and brought maybe Prince Johnson on his side. This is why I attribute his victory to these three individuals. I mean, even though there are a whole lot of other dynamics that have played into that process, but so those are the three individuals that I attribute that to.
I never heard this twist that this was genius. This is genius. It's not Prince Johnson. He brought him on board, and I think Ahmed like that. Let me go to Elijah.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Ahmed, your 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say truly, there's a genius. Look, politics is like a chess game. It's a really careful, calculative, thoughtful mind game. So you see, Boakai set aside Mr. Ure, set aside Henry Costa, right? Brought in Prince Johnson. So Dave is truly a psychologist. He's going to the higher level. He's not telling you the operational people, the technical people that they all these. Yeah, these are a leadership. So the man provided a kind of pathway and shared himself of people that were basically tantamount to being trouble for him. He basically studied these people quietly and got rid of them. Then we saw the public tantrums on the Ure side, the Talia Ure, the dad, the Benoni Ure and Henry Costa side. And the whole CPP, if you look at it, kept blaming Mr. Boakai, now president-elect, that was failure of leadership, and the CPP crumbled under him. Well, look, as the Cummins wanted them to go to a primary and all of that, and the people said, look, this man, the senior statesman, we want this president the head of the TK. If you can't accept that, you go away. And they went alone and they played the political game. Look at the outcomes, Denny. So I agree with Dave on that score that was genius.
Mr. Washington, I mean, I was one of those who even Jeremiah Cowan, and that's the correct pronunciation of his name because he's darkened from my town. I mean, we heavily criticized Boakai for picking his running mate. Now they're saying this was genius. The end justifies that.
Mr. Judd, the voters in Liberia grew disillusioned over Weah's failure to live up to his election promises to improve their lives. Weah was accused of not living up to his campaign promises, and he showed justice for victims of conflicts in our country. Now, Weah on his part said he had supported education, built roads, hospitals, and brought electricity into people's homes. But his poor record on corruption, high on youth unemployment, and general economic hardship on our people has contributed to his defeat. So for me, for Boakai on this part, I mean, he has a significant public and private sector experience, but at the age of 78, are you killing me? You think this guy is going to be a good president for our country? I just think that if anybody had gone in the second round with Josh Weah, they would have won Josh Weah. It's not based on engineers. It's just clear that people are disillusioned. And they didn't want anybody else. They didn't want Josh Weah, so whoever came, they took him. So I don't believe this. So
that person didn't come out of the blue, right? They went to the first round.
Say that again?
I said that person, who you said whoever came against Josh Weah, I said that person was not picked from what? Throwing your dice. They went through the first round.
No, absolutely not. But hey, at the end of the day, whoever had gone there, who have won Josh Weah, I don't bet on any.
My point is, it couldn't be whoever, because other people tried and they didn't even come to 3%. Nobody came close to 3%.
Yeah, but the thing is, amongst the people who were vying, Boakai, because on his part, people thought he was one of the better candidates amongst the other people.
Right.
But if they had gone, if one of those people had won, they would still have beaten Josh Weah. And that's
I don't understand the if though, because they actually contested and they didn't get there. So there is no if now when we come to the second round.
No, but the point I'm trying to drive at is that based on the fact that Liberian people had gotten to a point in their lives that, hey, Josh Weah and the CDC was not meeting their campaign promises, whoever had gone in the second round, because obviously it was clear that no one would have won the first round, right? So I'm just saying that if anybody had gone in the second round, they would have still won Josh Weah. That's the point I'm trying to make. So it's not based on the fact that, hey, he has this public sector experience. People kind of saying, oh, he's man of peace. I don't believe all these kind of things. I don't believe it. And the last thing I'd like to make before we leave this point is that
so what specifically did Boakai do to be victorious? Nothing?
I don't think he did anything significant any part. People came together and thought, hey, we come together, let's get rid of Josh Weah because he's not meeting our needs at this time. He's not improving our lives. So they'll look for somebody else who we think in our mind could improve our life. If it's going to be Cummings, whoever it's going to be, let's look at someone who is going to improve our lives. But the last thing I just let me disagree with Ahmed when he talks about the first round. In his mind, he thinks the first round was not credible. He thought that Unity Party won, but he has not provided the evidence yet. But he's indicting NEC on this show that, hey, he thinks they might have done something wrong. I mean, that's not how you go about doing this kind of things. If for one reason you want to indict NEC, bring the evidence, because we get the impression that, hey, they are not credible, but we're not able to provide the evidence to show why they're not credible. The next thing he talks about the setup of NEC. Yeah, you cannot indict people for their own who didn't set up themselves. They were set up by the political arrangement in our country. So if you don't like it, change it. But to indict them based on their setup and indict them based on something that you don't have evidence for, I think that's not fair. That's not fair tonight. And I thought I would not like this slide. Just bring it up.
Thank you, Councillor Jana. I know you want to respond. Let me go to Councillor Jana quickly. Councillor Jana, you did not only support Joseph Newman Boakai in Lofa, but you yourself, you were a poor washer. Give me your impression. Yeah, give me your impression, vis-a-vis this whole idea of there could be some irregularities and NEC performance and all that.
I sat on the Supreme Court bench for 13 years, during which time I had the opportunity to look at some key records coming out of the many elections or electoral processes. But for the first time, I had the opportunity to participate in a way that I have never done before, this time in Lofa County. The legal regime we have for election in Liberia needs to be overhauled. There are just too many problems in terms of the way we conduct elections in Liberia. And I believe that one sure way to do that would be to re-examine the entire legal regime which regulates the conduct of election in Nigeria. Take, for example, we all know that one of the first things that the Constitution has provided for looking at problems or complaints about election mandate that those complaints be taken to the very body which you are complaining of. They will first have to examine all of those things, make decisions which you can appeal from. I sat in a polling station as a poll watcher because I really wanted to just see how are these things done. And I noticed that the first thing you enter there, most of the times, those who are coming in to conduct election, which you call the election staff, most of the time they are recommended by the candidates themselves who are participating in election. And then you who are the poll watcher, they make you to sit left 4-5 meters away from them. When I asked the guy about, there's someone they call the voter identification officer who takes the ID card from the person desirous of voting at the time, examines it, and then he goes into the final registration roll. And then he will mark this thing and then ask the person to give another officer, the election officer, to give that person the ballot paper. Now, none of these you as poll watcher will have the opportunity to look at. We had to raise issue with the people there, and at some point had to get the magistrate to come and intervene and to correct those things. So I was just wondering, imagine if, other areas where those kinds of issues were never raised. So there are just too many problems we need to look at, and I think that most of us who participated in these elections, especially at that level, that practical level, have good reason to want to sit down together and make some suggestions to the new legislature to see what could be done regarding the entire legal regime of election in our country.
But what you made of NEC?
You know, I have problem with the law that even constitute the election commission itself. Why the election commissioner did this time, it seemed to me to be very laudable. But until we deal with the problem that in fact give rise to the conduct of election in the country, we'll always have this kind of problem associated with our election.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia Prime Time Sunday. We are discussing Joseph Boakai wins as president. Weah Concedes, now what? And we're looking at all these factors. What I want us to look at now is what kind of government do we expect from Joseph Newman Boakai in the next 100 days, starting with the transition. I want to include, and what I want us to look at, if we look at a transition, from there we go to the cabinet. Will there be an inventory of national covers, if you don't want to call that audit? Will there be an audit of the elections? Because we are all now saying, okay, the election commission did extremely well, but can we have an audit? Can we look at the process, not just the process, but compared, say, ballot papers from tally sheet and all that stuff? Will they in the next 100 days, will the Boakai government set a tune to go after stolen wealth through audit? Will they be looking at some of the unsolved crimes and reopening of investigations on murders, on drugs, on guns, and all these different things? I know there's a lot in there, but let's start with the transition. And our friend Admeke Sali wrote an article on transition. He participated in one. So, Mr. Salih, let me start with you there. And I read your article. I think it's fine. And you put in some notes there that, hey, this is how we did it. I don't know, man. But what do we expect from the Boakai transition?
Thank you, Dennis. I also put in some points to consider that other countries and other contexts similar to ours have, implemented for them, for themselves. Look, and the justice is on the call today, and so you can speak to some of the statutory issues and legal regime and regimes and framework. In 2017, when some friends in the CDC then invited me to sit on the subcommittee on governance, I became a major player in there, where we participated as the governor. I think it was headed by the late Dr. Amos Sawyer, because he was the chair of the Governance Commission and some real senior and prominent citizens in Liberia. The bottom line is the committee, the President Salih had to pass an executive order, because there was no law, there was no National Presidential Transition Act or some kind of, because we had not, up until 2017, we had not experienced one president transferring power to another, or at least transitioning in that way peacefully in 74 years. Since 1943, President Arthur Edwin J. Barclay transferred power to President Tubman. There have been other manners of transfers of power, but apparently we didn't have any law, or we didn't have any act that guided that, created budgetary staff requirements, or even how inauguration will happen, and what kind of processes, what norms and traditions were supposed to be in place. So the president was constrained to pass the Executive Order 91 that created what they called then the Joint Presidential Transition Team. So that JPTT was chaired by both outgoing president and the president-elect then President George Weah. And then they have other structures that I described in my article. They have major team other areas that establish committees around, like state of the economy, governance, rule of law, security, infrastructure, and so on. And each of these had subcommittees. So the point is, transition is a complex thing. You need to be organized. You need to be very well resourced. You need to recruit people who you trust and who have experience and competence to run a smooth transition, because a smooth transition will help the president-elect and the new president to be able to scrutinize quickly who the personnel will be, who the cabinet members will be, who will head these major agencies. And it's a whole process. It has to be systematized to be able to really strategically pick people who will help the president to hit the ground running, to have policies in place, processes in place, and then to be able to seamlessly transition. Now, you have to think about this. There's a government until the inauguration happens in January. They're still in office. Okay. If you don't have a well-organized, well-resourced, purposeful transition team, there are a lot of pitfalls that you could experience, as happened with the President Weah situation, as I described in my article.
So what do you expect? Do you expect President-elect Boakai to put together that team? And do you expect President Weah or the CDC government to be open and very cooperative in that process? I spoke to you here, and Dr. Dupley said, well, all those materials that were prepared before, the CDC tells them out and say,
they didn't,
get out.
They didn't publish the report. They didn't even.
So what do you expect this time around?
So President Salih helped them to transition. It was not a smooth transition. So, for example, as soon as they left inauguration, the SKD, the president's able lieutenant told him the first thing to do is to issue an executive order, fire all the political appointees right now with immediate effect, and institute an order that says officers in charge are the ones in charge of these ministries, agencies, and commissions. These officers in charge were the human resources people who didn't have any legal authority, nor were they signatories to various government accounts and things like that. So the government essentially shut down on day one. You don't want to have that kind of situation. All right. And then you have people who were experienced, who were technicians, who were experienced people saying, oh, this institution needs to start doing this. And they say, no, all that thing, we're in new political dispensation now. This is a new government now, the people going. And so it was chaos for them, even from the get-go. Both President Boakai, that I know there are some people around him who have been with him during the campaign, who were with him in 2017 throughout, who are experienced people. I believe they were assembled a team. Now you never know, right? It can be a very fluid, complex situation, particularly when you have alliances and coalitions coming together, different interests, and people are juggling for first time of the president-elect in position, whatever the interest might be. But if you have solid people like Samia Kofi Woods, you get certain people that I know that are around and working with the president-elect. I've seen them work before. I believe that these people can really, and even with Mr. Amara Kone, some of us now he's senator himself, senator-elect, so he's not really, I don't assume will be that involved in the executive moving forward. But I'm just saying his experience in government under President Sirleaf, these are people who can help them to really recruit the right people and get on good footing to help the president to begin governing on day one after inauguration, from transition to governing. Because if that process is not managed well, then you have trouble with appointment processes. You have problem with nomination processes. You have problem with confirmation processes. You have problem with knowing what projects or programs the outgoing government was under, how much money in these agencies' accounts, how much money in the consolidated accounts, how are they transferring things? Are people taking away government assets? Are people vandalizing the government and things like that? So you really have to begin to watch all of these things and have people to ensure that they are hand over nose and they take them seriously and they pass these hand over nose to future officials who will be heading different agencies of the government.
Thank you. Councillor Janet, what do you see with the transition?
Well, I suspect that the transition will be is likely to be a very slow one because most of the things Mr. Seni talk about, the fact of the matter is that these are things general that two guards a team, a joint team by the two leaders, the incoming and the outgoing. But oftentimes, because of the way these things happen, there are generally more difficulties, challenges at the end of the day. I remember 2005, after the elections, and Mr. Seni was declared winner. We had similar challenges. Our Minister of Justice at the time, so we had to work with the team that was coming in. And there were all sorts of challenges. But once you have people who at least have had some experience in administrative or public offices, they will most of the time find some way to get these things done. But our country right now, like the way you had the kind of battle that had taken place between these two parties right now, I see a lot of challenges. I see a lot. I can only hope that people begin to look at the interest of the state, and just vote themselves a little bit for their partisan kind of posturing. And that for me comes from the fact that when you look at these elections, I think one of our colleagues on the panel was talking about, these are very close elections, very, very close. Right now, one can see that Liberia is split literally in the middle. So this is not one of those things where someone has won election 60%, 65%. Right in the middle. Liberia is a heavily divided country right now if you want to look at the statistics coming out of this election. So there has to be a way that everything we do, the way we talk, the kind of action we take, especially these few days leading to the taking over of President Boakai, and then the kind of everything will have to be done to ensure that we bring our people, the Liberian people, together as one nation, one people. That for me is primary. And that should be part of the guiding thing of philosophy for the transition.
Thank you, Elijah. The transition, do you see a smooth one? Do you see the CDC government cooperating? Do you see the Boakai incoming government being tactical to make sure that these things are handled very smoothly?
Well, Mr. Jad, what hurts my heart is that our country over the years, we base our transition on people. It's like, if we get a qualified people, then we can do this. Why are we not based on, why are there not quality control system in our country? Why do we have to base it on people? If these things are put in place, we don't need to base it on people. It's going to flow naturally. But if our institutions are not strengthening that there's no quality control, they have to be based on people. Oh, if the person comes in, there's a possibility that the transition is going to be smoother or not. Come on, man. That's not the way it has to be. Things should be put in place so that it flows. Naturally, the policies are there, the plans are there. Whoever comes, they follow that plan. But because over the years, in our country, we have people when this government comes in, they bring in people. They just bringing people. Then when they're going out, these people go. There has to be something new. Why do we have to follow this kind of pattern? Why do we always have to follow this pattern? Why can't there be quality control put in place? That when the government comes in, these are the policies, these are the things we're going to follow. And but I anticipate that. Based on what I listened to the president say, that he's ready to work and he's urging people to work with the Unity Party government. I'm anticipating that it's going to be smooth, that they will listen and they'll work together. That's my anticipation. I don't expect it to be a difficult thing based on what he said, and I trust his word.
That means they are not listening to Jefferson Koji.
Well, they shouldn't be listening to Jefferson Koji. Jefferson Koji is not the one who leads the political party. I think they should be listening to the president.
Yeah, but every system, no matter how smooth and similar it is, you need people to operate it, right?
Yeah, but
so people are very important.
They are not going to operate it based on their own instincts. They're going to operate it based on the mechanism that's put in place. So if it's there, it's going to be easier. But what I see happen in our country is that it's based on people's own experience, and that's what they bring, and they think that's the way it has to go. So at the end of the day, when they're not there, someone else comes with different experience. Then at the end of the day, you just keep changing and things just keep moving that way. And I think it should be that way.
Dave, what's your take on the transition? What should the Boakai team, or what should we be expecting?
Or what we should hope for. Just as my colleagues have said, we are in the United States. You don't just go to any office and they tell you, hey, tomorrow you're going to start work, and you enter the office and say, hey, I'm from Harvard University. I have these degrees and all that in this particular field. Therefore, it's left with me to do what I can bring on board. That's not how it works. There's something they call even the OJT, wherever. Even if you are going for a sweeping job, you may say, I know this already. Say, yeah, you know it, but there is a way that it works here. And part of the problem, like my colleagues also speak to, have to do with also our maybe national legislature. That is, I don't care what your qualification is, what your education is. There is a way to do things. And you can be the genius. But when you get into an entity and there's no guidance, there's no roadmap, there's no blueprint, it's difficult for you to settle in. By this time, I hope that we will have some of these things. We may not have everything in place, but at least some blueprint that we can follow. And if it's not there, we hope the Boakai administration right now will be able to work with the Weah administration so that we can create that. And then maybe we can legislate this whole process. This is the way that we should do transition so that whoever is placed into that role would know what they are supposed to be doing. Because it helped you, the government that is outgoing. It also helped the government that is coming in so that you can have a smooth landing. And if those things are not there, we hope that they will be put into place. I hope President-elect Boakai will be listening and not just to say, like, just like what Mr. Salif has described, that, oh, you guys can leave. We know about this. During that time when I heard that everything was to be turned over to the HR, I myself, I was like kind of surprised that how is this going to be? I remember the late the justice minister at that time was this guy from River G, and he himself was complaining that when he got to the office, he was like, "No,
Frederick,
you no longer
Frederick,
have
Frederick
authority here."
Gerald.
Frederick, yeah.
Yeah, he said, "You no longer have authority here. It's your HR person," and what does that? So we are hoping that we can make Liberia better. That Wakai will do the best for this country. That we will be open also to provide whatever information that he has. This should not just be about recrimination, but really so that we can have real record systems so that people can get into the various places for this nation to function. Let it look at transition as, handling the next person, the beautiful clay pot. If you throw it to him, it's going to break into pieces. So you should gently hand it over. Teach them the process of handling it. That's what we are hoping for. And thank God we have all of these platforms that we can use to communicate. And I hope people are taking notes and people are listening to others who have interest in the real functioning of Liberia.
Thank you. And those of us, uh, yeah, Councillor Jana was coming to you, but go. You want to add to
yeah,
transition?
no, yeah, I just want to say that I think that we should now hope that this whole transition will be as smooth as any previously.
Why are you
There are many reasons
why are you not optimistic?
No, I'm just being realistic. I'm optimistic but realistic at the same time.
Okay.
You know, the instrument referred to by Mr. Seni, where the president issued his executive order, of course we all know that those are laws that are very temporary, maybe at most 1 year, but at least that provided some guideline as to how to proceed. But we all know what the end result was when CDC took over. The moment they came in, they didn't want to have anything to do with anything that they didn't believe in. They moved straight to fire almost everyone who was there, asking the HRO people to take over. And that was a chaotic situation in the country. Now, what should we expect this time? I can only hope that given the kind of utterances coming from the CDC side, that people will want to put that bill first and then just try to work together. But I don't see it as smooth as many of them may be thinking. I don't think so.
You are scaring me.
It's going to be a rough ride.
You are
No, I'm
scaring
not
me.
scaring you. I'm just telling you to rise up to the challenge.
No, So that takes us to our next step, which will be the last step. I want to bundle everything. I want to put everything together. Go ahead, Dave, if you want to inject quickly.
No, I mean something I just wanted to add. We should not leave governance to the kindness of individuals. That if I want to, I think
yeah.
we need to establish some laws that punish people for not doing what they're supposed to do. We need to do that. We need to establish that. And this is why most of us are not in government, so that we can be on the outside and point to the flaws. Maybe when you are in the system, you don't see, that the corrupt, the incompetence or whatever. When you're on the outside, you can see. So if people fail to do those things, the governing of this nation does not rest on your kindness, on your willingness, or well, I want to do it or not. There should be laws put into place that will punish people for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if Mr. Boakai doesn't live up to those things, he will hear us.
Right. And sometimes things are negotiated, right? So they say, hey, I'm able to turn over if you do this for me. But let me go to our last step here, which is the kind of government. And I will start with Justice Janet because I saw your name came up. People are floating your name now. But what kind of cabinet are we expecting? Well, we saw a letter came up. Say, well, we said they're going to audit, they're going to go after people that stole money, they're going to recover assets and all that. And within less than 6 hours that was withdrawn, the UP said, oh, this is fake. When I saw that letter, it warmed my heart that indeed let people be accountable. I mean, but so Councillor Jana, my question is, what do we expect? Do we expect a cabinet? What kind of cabinet do we expect? Do we also expect this new government to do an inventory? Because there was this debate, we have nothing in the coffers. Ellen said, no, I left money there. So will we do an inventory of the national coffers this time? Will we audit the election? Because we are saying the election did this, did that, but can we actually do an audit? Not to punish people, but just to see, to improve the system. Not this audit that the NEC itself will do, but an independent audit. Will the government go after stolen wealth through audit? Will we we saw the drug, unresolved crimes, the auditors, right? Joel Sherman, the other lady who died in the compound, they say, oh, this is TB. Will the government reopen those kind of investigations? The guns that were brought in the country, the drugs, and all these things, are we expecting to see those kind of things to once again restore confidence in the system? Or within the next 6 months or 100 days, will the government kind of take some steps that will make us to see that those things are possible?
This is one matter that I have given some thoughts to. Firstly, we have to be very, very realistic. That Liberia today is a heavily divided country. We need to bring our people together. What will be my first priority? My first priority will be to say, how do we form a government that will be reflective of our diversity? Bring, of course, non-compromising competence and experience. To do this, we now start with, taking 2-3% 2-3% former government official to court because you believe they have done ABC. Even to take somebody for prosecution require a lot of work long before taking them to court. So what we need to do, and what I would expect will be, and I'm happy that you made reference to this letter, because when I saw this, somebody sent it to me, of course, I really didn't believe that this would be coming from a Boakai administrator. I really didn't believe that. So I'm happy to know this evening that people say, no, this is not from someone fit this. Because I think that if you do this, this will be the first wrong step. We need to start talking about how do we bring this country together, helping the president to form a team competent to carry on. Because, Mr. Jai, in Liberia today, we all have to be realistic and courageous enough to say that, look, we need to take Liberia back now to 2017 status, where we were at that time. Because almost every system left here about 2017 have been broken down completely.
Really?
So, oh yeah. So there's a lot to be done. A lot to be done. So you need an audit of the whole system. And for me, when you say you are serious of fighting corruption, it doesn't start with George Weah administration. It doesn't. Mr. Boakai served as vice president in an administration that lasted for 12 years. There were things there also that were not attended to. Are we going to disregard those? So this requires a lot of work, a lot of thinking through, and then with a competent team deciding how to proceed. So that's the way I am looking at it, considering the fact also that today that Bureau is heavily divided. We need to bring our people back together as one nation, one people. And that should be part of the priority things the Boakai administration should be looking at.
Thank you. Dave, that's what we've been looking at since the war ceased, right? We are one people, let's reconcile first, let's, as Professor Sawyer would say, let's trade corruption for peace and all that. What is
that one that Professor says, and now I'm saying.
No, I'm quoting Professor, not you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Dave, what's your take? What do we expect from the Boakai government when it comes to the cabinet going after corruption, setting up, taking steps that will really tell us that yes, this is a new dawn. Mr. Boakai is ready for business.
You see, the thing that sometimes that is not pleasant to me is the moment when we begin to think about those things or talk about them, the issue that comes in also is reconciliation, bringing the nation together. By maybe some people will say bygones be bygones, and what we create is that we try to create a conflict between maybe accountability and reconciliation, as if both of them cannot exist at the same time. I think what really can reconcile this country, bring people together, is people have the sense that they are being respected, that the system is there for them to protect them as well. And how do you provide that protection for the people is for them to have confidence in the system, especially our legal system, our judicial system, that these things are functioning, that there is accountability. So I don't want us to talk about, like, bringing the country together when the issue of accountability of audits come in, because it seems like we are trying to say that we cannot have one when we have the order. And so I hope we'll be able to give account of certain things. And once there is transparency in this country, when there is accountability, if people feel that they're hurt, that what has happened to them has been addressed by their government, I believe that itself can bring us together. If their economic needs have been addressed, regardless of what counties they come from, whether they are vote rich or vote depleted, they will feel that, yes, this country belongs to me. And if this country belongs to me, I will do everything to protect it. And this other person is my neighbor and we belong together, and therefore we will look after one another. I think we should start with those things. We should show accountability, and in that process, everybody is not going to be happy, but at least that proved to work, and that proves to improve a system in most culture or in most countries that we know of.
Thank you. Elijah,
Um,
the first 100 days.
I think this question takes me back to what I had said previously. When we run a government based on people and not integrity institutions. Because what I see happen in our country is that immediately a new government comes in, the next thing people start talking about is audits, accountability. I have to say 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 days ago, there shouldn't have been accountability. There shouldn't have been an audit. Why do you have to wait for the end of the tenure of a government before you do audits? Audits should be something that should be done. So when the institutions are working, you don't need to wait for the government to finish the tenure before you talk about audits. The things should be there. These are things that should be there. That should be there every day. People come to government and they leave. They don't have to wait for the 6 years before they leave. These people come and do things and they just go. Why don't you audit them? Why do you have to wait? And I hear all it needs.
And why you think that is the case?
Because our institutions are weak.
So what do we do? What should Boakai do?
We need to strengthen them. We need to strengthen them. We need to put laws in place, and we need to follow these laws. Because if we don't do that, these institutions are run by government. Tomorrow, CDC leaves, everybody goes. The party comes in, they bring in their own new things. They bring their own people, and these institutions are run by these people. And when they leave, the next, we need to audit them. Hey, the institution should be there. Guidelines should be put in place. Things should be put in place that people will follow, so that it protects itself. The institution is protected by these laws. But hey, our institutions are weak. They are not followed. Laws are not followed. But the next thing is about accountability. And tomorrow, when somebody calls for accountability, next we're talking about witch hunting. Why should we be in the same sentence? Hey, if you have performed a job, we should evaluate you, and you be based on what you do. It has nothing to do with witch hunting. I mean, you should be accountable for what you do. So, but my point is that, hey, we should not wait for the government to release power before we talk about accountability, before we talk about audits. These things should be there every day. Every day, people should be audited. And I think because our institutions are weak, they are not credible. That's why people have to wait when the government comes in before they can talk about audits and talk about accountability.
Mr. Salif.
Yeah, but that statement is incorrect. Audits are being done in
exactly. Yes, I was about to. Yeah.
Actions are not taken to deal with those things that happen, but audits are done. These are two requirements, and all these institutions have been audited. Those that are not, the law says they should be audited. But those that have been audited, what has it been done with those reports? Little or nothing.
And why is that?
Why is that?
Impunity is the problem.
Why we do?
Yes.
Well, but Mr. Guy, I think you know that better than any of all that there's this concept called political will. So audits are done, the reports are sent. In some instances, the requirement is that the report be sent to the legislature, is sent there, nothing happens.
Right. So the political will that's left to the kindness of the heart of the
I don't know.
That's what Washington issue is.
I don't know what is political will. What is political will?
Oh, Washington.
I know exercise the political will.
Go ahead,
the
Councilor.
political will is where you have legal requirement or legal duty to perform, or is left with you to do that, and you don't do it because you are afraid of the political consequences that may attend to your action.
And then if that person leaves, when we have the power to do it, then we say, oh, we are all one people, this is not a priority.
No, Mr. Jha, I think you were trying to oversimplify what I said.
I just trying to exaggerate to make a point.
No, we didn't say that because there's need for us to bring the nation together, you should disregard those things that talk about accountability, transparency, all of that. That's what we say. We just saying we have to sit down, look at the situation we are faced with, and say which one should we. What's the first step?
But
what do we need to sit down again? Because we sat down 10 years ago.
What should we be based on?
Why are we not?
I think we're speaking in context.
Yeah, no,
administration.
No, right, that's the same context I'm speaking in, right? Because these things are already in the books. So that's why I'm saying we sat down, maybe 20 years ago. So these things are already there. All right. When Molu submitted a report, his GAC report, nothing was done. When all the reports, the carbon credit report by Nambali Warner, nothing is done. All these murder investigation, nothing is done. So if that person who does not have the political will leaves, that gives us an opportunity to say, okay, now we get you. But then people say, oh, that would be witch hunting, so just leave it. Then ECOWAS will come and say, hey, we are negotiating for amnesty, so just leave it alone. We're just from war. You have to do X, Y, Z so that we don't disturb the peace of the country. This has been a vicious cycle. Mr. Salif, what do you think?
Well, I think that's what the justice is saying, really. I know you can speak for himself, not putting words in your mouth, but we talk about impunity, we talk about political will. Those are the two things that have really held us behind, like he described. Let's say you have a friend or you have a sibling or a child who was allegedly involved into something, and then the person was audited or investigated, and now the audit report is put before the president or the authority, the person in charge to implement the consequences of that report. And it doesn't happen because, like you said, there are political consequences, given our context, given what we have accustomed ourselves to, given the kind of standards we have set or not set for ourselves. Okay, so you Dave, you're right. We can do both. Well, you can reconcile, unite the country, and hold people accountable. Still, you have to set the ground, set not example, but at least signal to people that we are serious about changing things in this country. It's not going to be business as usual. If President Boakai can, on day one, this is not witch hunting. This is truly a different administration, because Liberians deserve better. The country deserves better. The country needs to move forward. And here are steps that we will be taking. Look, all the time we cite Singapore as this example, this shining star and North Star that we want to get to, right? That's why Lee Kuan Yew and others did. The top level people who were involved in corruption, they were being prosecuted. Of course, due process, you investigate people, you make sure that you follow the law. But people were jailed. And on the other hand, people were paid well. They recruited the best of the best, the competent people, experienced people, paid them well, so that you had no reason to be corrupt. If you were corrupt, you are prosecuted, you're sent to jail. People underneath you, lower level people who are, line officers or officials in these agencies, they'll respect the law. They'll fall in line. Liberia, we are quick to change things and begin to respect systems. As long as we see these consequences and we see that people who are supposed to be implementing things that really mean business and they have integrity. So, it's left with the new administration really to set that tone from the get-go, from day one, the kinds of appointments they will make. Mr. Washington, you say, why we talk about people? Look, systems are people. So, system, you have laws, policies, and you create a sort of, you put in processes. It's people who run them. It's people who implement. It's people who investigate. People who audit and implement these audit reports. So no matter what you do, anywhere in the world, you need people to carry out and make sure the system, so-called system, works.
I think you know what I mean. You know what I mean. You definitely.
No. Well, I know you were I mean, I don't want us to go tit for tat in this context, but I think I was
You know what I mean?
when you started going. Why we focus on competent people? Why we say this person has to be the runner? Yes, because historically in our country it has been nepotistically practiced. It has been you put somebody there because you know them. It's sort of being a stooge washes. Somebody, you put your stooge there, they respond to you. You put your relative there, your network of family, network of friends, people from your region, from the ethnicity. This is how we've run our government. And even look at the legislature. Many of these offices, you hire somebody as minister today, or somebody gets elected today as a senator, as a representative. What do? They bring their relatives, their friends, people from the community. These are the people who work in their offices, whether they're qualified or not. And we don't check these things. So when we talk about putting systems in place, these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, Dennis, that will make the difference for any new administration.
So Mr. Salif,
Can I just respond?
Mr. Salif, so what do we expect? Hold on. What do we expect the Boakai government to do in the next 100 days to set that tone? Just specific examples. And are we looking up to the? I talk about the letters. I really personally believe that first when I saw this letter coming out, I was excited, but I said, well, maybe this was before because this doesn't seem to be recent. But then they withdrew the letter, so I had some suspicion. Are they withdrawing this letter because people are negotiating?
I think
No,
why they withdraw? They didn't issue it. That's the president.
Right? Okay, no, wrong choice of word. They said the letter was fake.
Okay.
The issue of corruption, Dennis.
So Mr. Shelley, what is the specific step this government should take to set the tone that you're talking about?
Well,
is the government, is Mr. Boakai capable of doing that?
Yes. So, presidential authority is something that, in and of itself, can be contagious, right? When someone doesn't have the power yet, people come around them. Maybe they have charisma. Maybe they draw people and their ideas, and people kind of coalesce around. Once you have that power, even the perception of it now, because Mr. Boakai is not assumed office legally yet, but it's different now around him, the atmosphere, how you protect him, and people coming around him. So, but I'm getting a lot of feedback. I don't know, somebody, Dennis. So I think, again, look, I'm not inside the Boakai team, right? So I don't know what they're thinking, but the way I would imagine you set a tune from day one after inauguration, it's not only reflective in the appointment that Justice Janet is talking about, which is very important, demonstrating inclusivity, showing that you are here to be president for all Liberians, for all of Liberia. That is a good tune to set. But also policy prescription, things that you pronounce, things that you want to tackle immediately, and why. Be very transparent about them and how serious and credible that pronouncement is based on the steps that you will implement to get there. You lay them out, and those who are responsible, how they'll be held accountable, how to check those accountability checkpoints and things like that. You're setting the tune. You're saying, look, we mean business. We mean business. We're here to work for the Liberian people. We have this mandate to carry out our agenda, our vision for the country, which we marketed to you during the campaign. Now it's time to govern. Campaigns are over. We're here to govern. Here are the immediate things that we believe that are confronting the country, Liberian people elected us to do for the next 100 days. You set those kinds of tones, and you establish clear policy prescription and put systems in place, kind of like what we're talking about, legislative agenda, for instance. What are some of the laws they want to see passed and why? What are some of the international cooperation issues?
Mr. Sally, let me give you some examples here. I give some examples like reopening these murder cases, for instance. Would it be something, a way of setting that tone?
Well, like the justice has said, look, there are even complicated matters before you reopen cases. You have to do a lot of work in the background. Go and review what the previous government did. What they did not do. The current justice ministry. what kind of investigation did they do? Did they follow due process in certain cases? What evidence did they collect? Because cases, when you have a homicide situation, evidence collection, evidence assembly, evidence construction, it has stages and it has types, right? So some evidence, like you need forensic, some evidence you need, maybe it's been tempered or been diluted. So yes, open those cases, but again,
that's what I mean.
Then it send a clear signal that you now, when they say witch hunting, in the United Party statement that they corrected the first statement, they also said the incoming president, United Party, they're very committed to fighting corruption, to ensuring the Liberia move. So they did issue some kind of caveat to say, although we didn't issue this statement that seems to be going only after one set of people or one sort of government, but that does not mean just because we're saying we didn't issue it that we're not serious about corruption. They did correct that.
Thank you. And my point here is because when you are the opposition, when you are the government in waiting, you study these things. So even without coming, you should be things that you say, well, I'm going to give amnesty to this thing on day one. I'm going to free this political prisoner on day one.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it does. Sometimes it does because there are certain things that you know.
You know if you should get amnesty when you have not studied that.
No, I'm just giving an example because these are the things that you should study as an opposition.
Politicians are afraid of political revolt. They want to win power, so they're not going to promise anything that they think will make them lose power, or that they won't win.
For instance, you can promise war crime code because you have Prince Johnson. You can promise this because you have that. So I've seen politicians, I've seen other people say, I'm going to do this on day one when I get to power. I'm going to do this on day one.
Yeah,
I think the war crime code,
and that's the way I
the
want to say.
sausage making of Liberian
example. We don't have.
And that's the reason why I want
to. Elijah, go ahead and let me announce that if you want to join the conversation, please call the number on the screen. We're going to open the phone lines in 3 minutes. Go ahead, Elijah.
And it is what beats my imagination. When these governments come to power, the first thing they say, we're going to look for the competent people. We're looking for competent experts, the people who are competent, who can do the job. They get the competent people, put them in the job, and when they fail, they say, oh, there was no political will. There was no political will. Come on, what are you talking about? If you say you're competent, if for the reason you're supposed to do a particular job, and somebody else is blocking you for doing your job, resign. But you say you talk about competences, then you talk about political will. Come on, the two cannot work together. If you come to do a job, do a job. I'm talking about political will. Oh, don't have the political will. Then why are you considered to be a competent person?
Yeah,
the political will is
Liberian excuse sometimes.
I know that's the excuse.
Elijah, the political will is not with the agency leader, the agency head, the small people. The political will is with the principal, the leader, the president.
I'm not excusing them. So are they not the competent people?
Oh, come on. Well,
no, answer my question. Are they not the competent people?
Look, competent, you are conflating two things. Let's not go into semantics. You are conflating two things. Just because are you telling me you don't need qualified, experienced, competent people to run your system, to run your country, to be at the helm of your
Absolutely you do. Absolutely you do.
Okay, so then, I don't understand your argument.
And inherent, listen,
I'm not saying
inherent in the war competence is to be able to take what you call political will.
What now? Listen, look.
What are you
you are conflating two things.
No, I'm not.
Because
explain to me.
You can't tell me just because somebody should have political will doesn't mean that person necessarily has to be a competent person. We're saying, look, no matter what you do, any society, any system, you need people who know the job. You need people who have had experience, or at least who are able and are suitable for the position. When they talk about competency, these are the kinds of things people are looking for. And be inclusive. Make sure that whoever you pick reflects the totality of the society. Don't marginalize people. These are the kinds of things that we're speaking to. Impunity.
And follow the law is part of the competence. I think that's
you say that?
He said following the law is part of the competence.
I think
That's why
No, I think we should also include,
that's not
competence in
necessarily
itself
true.
may not
That's
do
not
it.
the case.
You can be competent, and maybe sometimes not ethical.
Exactly.
You can be competent and not be moral. So I think we need to lump all of those things together as well. Ethics have to come in, morality have to come into government. Okay. So I mean,
so
competence
me,
alone, yes,
hold
it
on,
may
Elijah.
encompass all
no,
of those
so
things.
no, Mr. John, so you are saying to me, I'm competent, but I'm a criminal.
Well, yeah, man. Listen, that's why I said you're conflicting things, and you say, "Oh, okay, I'm not."
You can be. I mean, we're talking about quality.
Yes,
That's. I'm not discounting what you are saying. That competence, as we see it, must encompass everything, but it doesn't. So that's why we have to make clear all of these things. The various people
hold on, Elijah.
ethical, they have to be legal, they have to be moral.
yes.
And for me, I would want for Boakai to, if he really wants to set examples, Boakai should not even include his relatives. The good thing with him is that his age is also a positive for him. So I think most of his friends are not living now, or they are incapable. His children are able now to be on their own. If they depends on government job for them to survive, then he has not done a good job. So let him be as transparent as, because I think he wants to be a legacy president. He wants to restore and put Liberia on the right, as they will say, trajectory. This is what I'm hoping. Do not, Boakai, do not employ your son, your daughter, your relative. Do not employ them in government. Let them go elsewhere so that you can do what is right, so you can be punitive. Because the moment you begin to bring in your children, your relatives, your friends, you get a little bit compromised. You get compromised because sometimes in our culture, it's difficult for you to punish your own son. So I want for the president-elect to start with those things. Start with himself. Do the house cleaning.
Thank you.
And maybe you will be
you.
effective. Else you will entangle yourself.
Yeah, and let me bring in two callers right now. They're waiting in the wings to join the conversation. The first is Elvis Morris, and then we have Flomo Kesseley. Elvis, go ahead. You're live.
Thank you, Mr. John. Hello to your panelists. I just wanted to say this whole issue about accountability, where people are hammering for this president-elect, once he gets in office, to try to persecute, those government of the CDC who were perceived to be corrupt.
No, Elvis, let me stop you there. Accountability does not mean prosecute CDC people perceived to be corrupt. When you are investigating, when you are doing the audit, you are looking at the system. So don't start on that foot. And nobody is saying go after CDC people perceived to be corrupt. Go ahead.
Thank you. So there are people who are hammering online, who are calling for Joe Boycott, or president-elect, to prosecute people in the CDC government who are perceived to be corrupt. And I think if he's going to go that route, which many of his partisans are, asking him to do, he first has to start with a man like Bonnie Samuka, who was convicted and upheld by the Supreme Court to restitute over $400,000, in which he hasn't done so. That's one of his main advisors on his campaign team. You look at a man like
Elvis, stop calling me. Why can't it be comprehensive? Why can you talk about comprehensive? Just do it without naming names. Justice should be blind, right?
Right. So my point is, you have if he's going to seem to be the guy who's going to hold everybody accountable, I want him to start with the Ellen Johnson administration, in which he was a part of, where billions of dollars came through that government. At the end of the day, they left $150 million in the reserve of our country, and the payroll was in shortfall. The operating budget of our country was in shortfall. So he said it's so many opportunities. Will he start with that United Party government? Will he start with Jeremiah Cohen, who signed up over $1 million and to his clinic in Nimba, and only turned it over when he was being investigated?
Elvis, you are still cherry picking. Elvis, Evans, you are still cherry picking. Just agree that there should be accountability, starting from Taylor.
When we say accountability, well, everybody that's watching or everybody that's listening or this UP supporter, when they say accountability,
No. To forget UP supporter, say your own. What is it that you believe? No. What is it that you believe? Do you believe that people should be accountable?
That's the point that I'm making. If he wants to prosecute,
It's no if. What do you say? What? No.
Well, he must first start with
Hold on, Elvis. Hold on, Elvis. Let me be tough on you. Forget individuals. Do you agree that we should hold people of the previous governments you can go to do accountable? Yes or no?
You can hold them accountable, but only if you hold yourself accountable.
No. We want to hold everybody. Do you believe we should hold everybody accountable?
Yes, fine. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Case closed. Don't.
With this CC government. Now you guys are moving. Now you guys are moving the goalposts, which I like. So you said starting with UP from the last 12 years of Joseph Boakai and I'm fine with that. Start from there and then come forward. And then lastly, I would say this before I get off the phone line. For those of us now who are in the opposition, if we see Joseph Boakai children starting to live a quote-unquote good life, if they're riding nice cars, if they're building new homes, we should assume that they're corrupt and any money that they're using to build themselves these new homes, they're riding these new fancy cars are stolen for the Liberian people. So I guess the same position they're in now should be the same position they should stay in when the public leave office. Or else we will assume that everything that they got is from stolen money. So let's just put that premise down and watch them and see if they'll start living a good life now that their father is the president of the country. Thank you for taking my call.
Elvis, I'm disappointed. I thought what you say, that's why we have people should declare their asset before they go. So stop saying, anyway, let me take our next caller. Flomo Kessler, you're live.
Oh, good evening, everyone.
Hello, sir.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you still have Justice Janet on? Justice Kabina Janet?
Yes.
Yes, I'm on, sir.
Justice Janet, let me say thank you, first of all. You are one of the credible men that we have in Liberia. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm a living testimony to your credibility. Maybe you may not remember, it's been almost 15 years, but I'm one of your students from the AMU Giant University. Just part of me being a smart guy, I used to, in my graduation year, I felt like, you know what, I'm a smart dude. I already got all A's. I don't need to attend his Law 1 class. But Justice Janet was taking note, and he was holding each and every student accountable for what they do. You must attend class, because you know these men are going to be giving you a lot of quizzes, a lot of assignments. One shot. He gives you 2 shots, 1-1 in the major and final. So we need to be playing around. But that year, when we went for the final, because we already received preliminary clearance, Justice Janet said we're not taking our test. He stood his ground. Even though he was associate justice, we went all over to beg people to beg him. He said no, and his no was his no. Guess what he did, Justice Janet? Maybe you don't remember. You paid my tuition to repeat the course. Yes. And I'm proud today, Justice Janet. Guess what? I work for one of America's most prestigious financial institutions. I work as a senior global financial analyst for U.S. Bank at the headquarters in St. Paul, Minnesota. I earned 3 masters now because of you instituting what we call high-level accountability and holding myself accountable. I got a master's in of finance and accounting. I have a master's in project management. I have a master's in public administration. I always talk about you, my wife and my kids, in my living witness. Now, so I just want to say thank you, and I have the opportunity to hear your voice on this show tonight. Moving forward, let me say what's on my mind tonight. I got 3 key issues even though we're talking about accountability for the president-elect, I'm not a partisan. I am a Liberian. Let people get that straight. I'm a Liberian, not a partisan. Because when you start speaking partisan, you're going to be partial. Now, I think that the president-elect should look at these three things first in order to be successful or for his government to be successful. One, forming a sustainable government that will be made up of people from cross section of Liberians from all the political subdivision of Liberia who are qualified, credible, reliable, trustworthy, astute, proficient, and expert in their fields. There should be people who have track records of creating results, such as Justice Janet. Number two, the president-elect should create an emergency team that I would call the Emergency Economic and Financial Recovery Team, made up of professionals that will create economic and financial policies that will be presented to the president for execution and implementation in consultation with the Liberian Parliament. This team will be charged with the responsibility to create the economic and financial policies and plans that will conform to international standards and will be standardized policies and plans in relation to the 21st century. This team will be made up of economic experts, financial experts, security professionals, international policy experts, and internal experts, among others.
Thank you. Your last point. You got.
Yeah. Let me fast forward.
Yes, please.
This team will be made. This team that I'm talking about, I just wrote a piece and I said, because when you look at this from all points, if you just focus on what we call accountability, the Liberian people are looking for results. If anybody can bear me witness, it's because of the inability of the Weah government to provide livable wage or what we call livable income for the Liberian people. That's why he was ousted and he was removed. He was not re-elected.
Thank you.
People are looking for results.
Thank you.
So we shouldn't just focus our attention on what we're talking about, prosecution or auditing or accountability. Yes, accountability is good, like Justice Janet did to us. It's good. But our his major focus should be creating results.
Thank you.
Economic results.
Thank you.
Financial results.
Thank you.
Making the financial sector to have what we call a fixed rate. When you create a fixed rate for your country, for your currency and the other currency, you will give your currency a value.
Thank you, Flomo.
I mean, that's just my piece.
Appreciate your call.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that's the we have only two callers, so we leave it as that. Let me get your response, Councillor Janet.
Well, you know, one of the things I believe President Boakai needs to do is to start focusing on building this competent team to help him run the country.
Yeah.
That team will now develop a clearly spelled out agenda and focusing on those things that mean a lot to the people of Liberia, that mean something to make Liberia better. And I believe that team must be diverse to reflect our diversity and should include our brethren in the diaspora.
Right.
I don't see how you can run a country with competent people leaving out a huge number of your own people in the diaspora who have gone there, have obtained expertise in various disciplines. They have experiences that you need to bear on the forward movement of your country. So all of these things we need to look at. Now, I believe that the first focus of this president should be building that team. That team. you're talking about 100 days. I want to look at, if I'm to say, let's do something, I'm looking at the first 300 days. Now, 100 days, with the system we have in this country now where almost everything is broken down, we're talking serious business here, you know. So I hope that we can all start thinking about that. For me, the issue of accountability starts from day one. Accountability also includes many other things, including prosecutions. Which one first? I mean, that is something that the team itself can sit down and look at. It should not be the public relation gimmick. Oh, they are taking, no. You know, and I fully agree with one of the panelists who say, so we start from where? We administration, that's where the people start talking about witch hunting. We need to start from a logical starting point. And what is that? Those are things that depend on the investigation, the reports and things that this team would take a look at. So a little bit more complex than I think we want to oversimplify. I hope we all can work with it. Yeah. And Mr. Jade, I hope you're getting ready, packing your bag to come and help.
Yeah. My dream job is to be superintendent of Sino, but not until we put an actual system in place where superintendents have some teeth to bite. My plan is to bring all the southeastern superintendents together, and I will be their law superintendent.
Yeah, dictator.
Well, you will meet with Koji in Monrovia.
Let us close. I know time is fast spent, and Mr. Salif is still in his office there. That's why I see it. That's why I see it look like a Kofi Annan picture behind him. So we got to let him go home. Let's do our closing. Let me start with Dave this time.
Oh, thank you so much for letting me be part of this exercise, and thanks to my various colleagues. You know, the Liberia situation sometimes is complex, or it seems complex, but if we forget about the complexity and think about Liberia, where we have been, you know, Liberia is a unique nation. We can get it, just like the Americans will tell themselves that if America wants to do it, they will do it. We Liberians, if we can create the right system for ourselves, because we have a long history. Sometimes I'm embarrassed when sometimes, you know, maybe by population we can say Nigeria, oh, our big brother, you know, this other country. But we are the big brothers in West Africa, or even in Africa. If we may be very much critical, and if we want to be very objective, we are the big brothers. Despite our population, Liberia has gone through a lot for a long period of time. We provided some fulcrum, some impetus for most of these African countries for their liberation. So, and people should not overlook Liberia. We have a long history. We have competent, capable people, just like one of the students have just spoken about the credibility of one of his instructor or professor at some point in time. There are some beautiful ones in our community, in our society, and if those people are brought to bed, they will do a lot a lot of good work. Also, we have to be able to make the ultimate sacrifices. Those who want to go back to Liberia and serve, please, at the onset, think, do not wish for your American lifestyle, your American standard of living. I think there should be some sacrifices. In the past, I think it was Ellen Johnson's Salif government I think they blunder at that point and expose the Liberian people to that level of, you know, exorbitant salaries and all of that. But if we want a better Liberia, I think we should also make the sacrifices. We should be able to maybe return, be satisfied with a salary or a compensation that will commensurate the standard of living of the Liberian people, the income that other people are getting, with the intention, with the hope that when things get better, when the economy improves, when our financial situation improves, then maybe we will have the opportunity to live your American dream or your Liberian dream. But at the onset, let us make all the sacrifices, and the government needs to realize that. I think what Mr. Boakai should also, meet with people so that we can reset, redraw our agenda. And one of the major places that we need to start with is our legislative branches. Those are the Senate and the legislature, and the legislative branch. I think they need to help the country. They need to govern. They need to help the incoming president. And if possible, if they can sacrifice to reduce their exorbitant salary so that we can have money for other things. We need that. We need to tighten our belts. We need some austerity measures for Liberia at the onset. And I hope President-elect Boakai will provide that kind of leadership that will set Liberia on the right course. So I thank all of you, and I thank you, Mr. Moderator, for allowing me the opportunity to be part of this discussion.
Thank you so much for accepting to be here. Justice Johnny.
Yes, sir.
Your closing comments, sir.
Well, I just want to thank you for waking me up to participate in these very critical and important discussions. We are here on the ground, and we believe that the president-elect has a very difficult challenge before him, but he can also be assured that there are thousands of Liberians in and out there, in the country and outside the country, who are committed to helping their country. So all he needs to do is to begin to focus now on building the team, a team, competent, patriotic team that can help him achieve the agenda he set out for himself from the one when he decided to run for the office of president. And I want to thank each of you for participating and hope that we can have another kind of discussion this time, talking about what should that team look like, the team that should lift Liberia up now. What should that kind of team look like? Those are the kind of discussions now I think that will also be helpful to the president-elect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before you come in, Elijah, with your closing comment, let me read a few comments here. This one from Willie Collins. He said, Mr. Denny, that is your brother. If you're asking if David's my brother, the answer is yes. Abby Tyler said, in Liberia, the preferential treatment to their tribes by their leader is so blatant. Few more comments.
Is it what?
He said the preferential treatment to tribes by the leaders is so blatant. Will say outgoing officials should be required to cooperate. It shouldn't be based on individual desires. The election divide seems like a personal issue, not philosophical or idealistic. This former justice just wants to stick with business as usual. Peter White, Mr. Salif Joseph M. Boakai had an office budget of 2.5 million times 12 years without accountability. Will you audit him too? I think it's a consensus that yes, we should audit. Darling say establish the War and Economic Crimes Court. implement the TRC recommendation. That's the beginning. Noel said the diaspora has lots of plans for the Liberian economy. We cannot afford to sit by in the diaspora and let those people who destroy the country. That's the only thing I don't like when you say those people. Those people who destroy the country resources walk away without justice. Okay, I see what you mean. Auditing the Ellen-led government was the responsibility of the Weah-led government. Do not expect JNB to do that for you. No more brown envelope, and we have lots of comments. Thank you, people, for commenting and being a part of the discussion. The last one, Gabriel said, I agree with the general concept of setting up a Liberian think tank. My only concern is with the international standard suggestion. We really need to design a roadmap that is based on our resources. Mr. Washington, your closing, sir.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you for this opportunity. So I'm always humbled to be on this platform to share views, illustrious and intelligent sons of our country. I'm very hopeful in my country, not based on the new leadership, but just based on the Liberian people, because the Liberian lesson is a lesson in civility and a message of hope. Liberia is a new moral compass of our sub-region, and that's why I'm very hopeful. Liberia rose from the arches, and now we're becoming the tree of political tolerance and decency in West Africa. And I think that's something we should be excited from. I mean, a few years ago we were rescued by other people. Now we are rescued ourselves, and we're making the right decisions for our country. So that's why it makes me hopeful, and I'm happy that and I'm hopeful that the new establishment will bring some sense of hope to the people. It will not just become the same people who are being recycled. Because when I look at what I see, people who are around Joseph Boakai again, I'm getting the sense that it's just a repeat of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf regime. So I just pray that that is the contrary when Joseph Boakai takes over.
Thank you. They say the new broom, yeah, you can sweep, but the old broom know the corner. So if they meet the criteria, I don't think. Oh, Coach King says he's trying to call me. Coach King, you can call me. I have not seen a missed call from you yet, but we are closing. Mr. Sirleaf, your closing comments. Sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everybody, and especially the justice. It's late over there. Thank you for always so graciously accepting our calls to come and participate in these discussions. The on-the-ground perspective really do help to put things in context for us. So thank you. I think these kinds of discussions are very timely. Our country is at an inflection point, I believe, like the justice said this evening. We may be in denial about it, but if we can go by our election results, the country is divided on many lines. And the incoming administration will have a huge task at hand. Economic recovery, unifying the country. Yes, celebrating a lot of the wins. Liberia has been at many inaugural tables, inaugural in the sense many international organizations, regional bodies, if they weren't founded on our soil, we were the instigators. But we also have to face realities that we've been left behind by some of the very institutions that we have to establish. We've been left behind by our own hands and our own doings. And so I think that this is an opportunity to reset the country, to reset and begin to make progress again. The country belongs to all Liberians. It doesn't belong to one set of people just because you want political power. I think that idea of alienating people because they don't belong in a particular political institution, political party, or affiliate with you has been problematic, has taken us nowhere. Discrimination of certain people, marginalizing certain people for opportunities to serve their country, for opportunity to contribute to civic development, economic growth, and development of the country is problematic. And so there's a lot to work on. There's a lot to work on sort of nationally to reconcile, to spur economic growth and opportunity, educate young people, revive institutions. And so the tasks are huge. And when we engage in these civic discussions, participate in the public discourses, I think they go a long way to foster some of those aspirations. We only hope people take them seriously, and as we begin a new administration here, the Liberian people came out to vote. We saw the unprecedented voter turnout. That was not by accident. The people are conscientized. The people are awakened. They will hold any government accountable. If you don't deliver, they can come back and put different group of people there. And so if I took anything from the election, my hearts were really warmed when I saw people stood line from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. until they voted so patiently. We can't congratulate them enough. We hope that the new administration, whoever will have the opportunity to serve, can all have that at the back of their minds, and they can serve honorably and so diligently. So thank you tonight, Dennis.
Thank you. Let me just beg your indulgence to give Coach King, that's Charles Ebukin, our security expert here, to give 1 minute to Coach King. You have the last word.
Yes, Tom, thank you very much to you all. I was calling earlier to let you know that when people were talking and you were trying to explain something to them and they were talking over you, just silence them so we can hear what you are saying. Don't let it go on, because things are being missed when that happens. Just my observation. Okay. And I got in late with you all when you all were talking about the law enforcement aspect. As you know, I'm concerned on public safety. So perhaps the next time you are on, I may be able to join you with some ideas. But this is a perfectly good time for the new administration to plan and set the stage. All of you have talked about setting the stage, setting the standard, setting the bar for everyone to follow. And this is a special time that it can be done for our Liberian people. But that's all I have to say for now. You all have done enough.
Thank you. Thank you. We're planning another show where we want to say what kind of government we expect when it comes to the economy, law enforcement, and all that. And definitely, please be on the lookout for an invitation, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for tonight. I want to thank our viewers for following us, and even those who will watch later, we say thank you so much. Always focus on Liberia is the place to be, because we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
Bless you too.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.